Welcome to Imperial Interlude, the first episode in 2022. This is episode 23, where we discuss the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. With me, as always, is Ralph. Hello, Ralph.
Hi, Tim.
So, this was a bit odd because it's the last Wednesday of last year where they launched a completely new series.
Yep.
And it was something.
It was Star Wars.
Indeed it was. It was a lot less violent than I had thought, but then again, I don't complain.
I'm definitely not complaining. I think it was more world building, to be honest. There was a lot more. They answered some questions I think that people had. You know, there was the answers, you know, to the questions
Though
to do
they
with
haven't
Fett.
answered all.
No, they haven't answered all, but they answered the main one, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and as always, if you haven't seen this episode beforehand on Disney Plus, go watch it now. This will contain spoilers.
Definitely. So should we jump into the opening of it?
Yes, please do.
So we all know the opening had basically a panning shot from Jabba's palace into the palace itself and into Fett submerged in Bacta. So that denotes to me that he's still suffering from his time in the Sarlacc.
Or he has some lasting problems.
I think it could be twofold. It could be the fact that because he's a clone and clones are supposedly have limited life expectancies. I think that was something George mentioned, that, you know, whether he has that or whether he's a natural clone where, you know.
Well, since he hasn't been altered growth-wise, I don't think they would have artificially shortened his life because Boba Fett Jango Fett wanted the payment to be a natural son.
Yeah, so it's probably the effects from the Pit of Carcoon and from the effects of Sarlacc, and then we get the flashbacks of is it Tapico City, which is the Kaminian homeworld. So we get a shot of that, and then we get a shot of Boba basically lifting up his father's helmet from
and in this shot we can clearly see the helmet is empty.
Yep. Thank God. What if Book of Boba had an 18 rated opening, you know?
That would have been lovely, wouldn't it?
And then, you know, and then of course we get the scenes of Boba inside of basically the digestive system of the Sarlacc and using, you know, able to turn his helmet on, see a stormtrooper, get the oxygen thing from the stormtrooper, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, at first I was, why are there stormtroopers in the Sarlacc? But then I remembered, there are stormtroopers on Tatooine at that time.
Yeah, and then pulling, you know, then basically putting his fist through the Sarlacc's gut and setting it on fire,
and digging his way out.
His way up. There's a brilliant thing did you ever watch the Patton Oswalt filibuster he did where he was talking about Star Wars and stuff?
No, I didn't.
It's from Parks and Recreation. This character does this whole filibuster in a public setting, it's like a council setting, and a filibuster is you just talk and talk and talk. And he did a thing about Boba, and it matches his description of Boba climbing out of the pit and stuff. Matches exactly that scene. There's a YouTube
there's something on YouTube. Somebody took inspiration, or is that pure coincidence?
I think there was a little bit of fan service done there somehow, which wouldn't surprise me because, you know, Patton Oswalt is part of the Marvel family because he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, you know. So and he knows John Favreau.
Patton Oswalt is now wanking one off as having written Star Wars lore that is now canon.
Maybe, you know. and then you know, we see Fett lying on the ground, and then we see the Jawas turn up, so we see how he loses the armor to the Jawas, which harkens back to basically the first episode of season 2 of the Mando, where Cobb Vanth is talking about how he got the armor.
Yeah, it's a bit depressing to see him get stripped of all his armor. And did you notice when he's finally out of the Sarlacc pit, most of the paint has come off.
Yeah.
So the Sarlacc is really nothing to be taken lightly.
No, it didn't eat the metal; it just ate the paint. So Beskar being Beskar, it being what it is. But the armor sort of matched that dissolved, that sort of almost distressed version of the thing is exactly how it looked in Mando season 2, episode 1. Anyway, so they've kept that to the sort of the thing. And then
the consistency was continuity.
Yeah,
that's the word I was
yeah.
looking for.
And then he wakes up and grabs a hold of a Jawa and then gets a blaster butt in the face. And as a lot of people have said, it's like even my missus commented on, we hate Jawas. It's like, they're annoying little shits they are. The Mandalorian in season, was it episode 3 or episode 2? Episode 2. Blasting them with the gun. Yeah.
Where they explode.
Yes, where they explode. But then that wasn't even that scene, and then the next bit after that as well is before we even got the opening credits. Which I thought was which was interesting, so then a group of Tuskens fall on him, come across the unconscious Boba, turn him over, and we see him all scarred and weakened. They bound his hands and then basically drag him behind a panther.
Yeah, and again, kudos to Disney for keeping introductions and intro sequences very slow, so there's no need for a skip intro button.
No, and like us, like we said, I think as well, as it was all leading up to, it was all character building, it was all world building, because we do know it's got to be about a 6-year gap.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Because Mando was 5 seasons, wasn't it? Well, 5 years roughly after Return of the Jedi. So, and say so it's at least 5, maybe another year on top of that. Him, because we don't know how long the Mandalorian season 2 is in sort of a timeline. Is that a year, or is that
Yeah, but since Boba has been shown his feet in the Mandalorian quite early, I guess the Mandalorian time-wise with the flashbacks is before Book of Boba is before the Mandalorian. The flashbacks, at least.
Oh, the flashbacks are. That's what I'm saying. Is the flashbacks are 5 years, because the Mandalorian
maybe even 4,
starts,
because flashbacks should be even closer, because he's just getting out of the Sarlacc pit and there's still rubble from Jabba's exploding bark. So this is literally day 0 after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because we don't know how long in the timeline Return of the Jedi is as a length of story. In the timeline,
so it's we know taking part within the Return of Jedi.
Yeah, the flashbacks are, and what I'm saying is, and it was said that the Mandalorian is set 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay, now I'm getting it.
So wherever Book of Boba sits, is it a year? Is it so the Mandalorian season 1 is 5 years. So does that mean the Mandalorian season 2 is 6 years? Which means then Book of Boba is probably about 6 years.
Yeah, I guess 6 or 7 years is a good guess.
Yeah, and so we do know we have that time to deal with, because I'm assuming for most of those 6 years he's been on Tatooine.
I'd say all the years, because he was looking for his armor.
Yeah, so he's and probably spending time with that with the Tuskens that have found him. What's interesting, there's a couple of things as well. One is we saw the Mastiffs again. We saw the the hounds, and we do know that one of those dogs at least originally appeared in Clone Wars, because Hound, that's the dog that the clone Hound had. It's the same sort of beast as Hound had. But the other thing I looked today was because there's both, when Boba wakes up, there's him and a Rodian, isn't there?
Yeah.
The Rodian is being voiced by Sam Witwer. who, for Star Wars fans know, is the voice of Darth Maul and the
Oh,
Emperor in Clone Wars and Rebels,
well,
and
that shows you how bad I am with names.
Starkiller from Force Unleashed 1 and 2. So that's Sam Witwer is the voice of the Rodian.
So I think he's only appearing the second time he comes to his senses again. I think the first time he's alone.
Yes. No. When he's being dragged, yes, it's when he gets to the camp. And then tries to escape, and this is leading up to just before the first credits, where he sort of escapes, and he uses the Mastiff, which I thought was quite clever, teeth to cut the ropes as the dog jumps at him, and then says to the Rodian, "Come on, we'll escape," and the Rodian basically
Rings the alarm.
rings the alarm. But then it ends up with Fett being chased down by a bunch of the Tuskens and the Mastiff, sorry, and then he has that showdown with one of the Tusken Raiders, and I think that's the
Which could be
mate.
either a son or a daughter of the
I
chief.
think it's a daughter.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm smelling some love interest.
I was just thinking from the style of costume or the style of Tusken armor. I think that's the chieftain's mate, not the son or daughter.
Speaking of the style, these Tusken Raiders are much more colorful than the ones we are used to see in the original trilogy and the prequels, and also the tents are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing maybe that's a completely different tribe or something.
I think it could be a different tribe, or they are following that the way that a lot of the, like the nomadic tribes operate within the desert regions of the world, where they are basically they move around a lot. So this is like a small group of them heading to say meet the big up tribe, to then set up camp for different weather systems or different different types of season and stuff. But I think this might just be one of the many different Tusken tribes that probably inhabit Tatooine, because we don't actually know how big Tatooine is as a planet, do we?
Yeah, neither do we know how many Tusken Raiders are out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that that we got that diversity as well within where you could actually see the diversity in the types of people.
Yeah, they're not just the bland beige, wrapped in linen people, but actually colorful chieftain.
Mm-hmm. And also having that hierarchy, I guess that's one thing the Mandalorian and this is done, is sort of giving a greater insight into this basically collection of people that we saw very briefly in the original trilogy.
So at this point, we may insert a David Attenborough voice going, "This is the tribal native."
That's a weird. Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, we get the Book of Boba Fett. After he's had his ass kicked by the Tuskens, which I was like, hang on, that's Boba. He's supposed to be the deadliest bounty hunter, but I guess
but he has been dragged through the desert for 2 days and sitting just there and almost being digested. I guess at that point, anybody is pretty much beat up.
But also the fact is he's probably the deadliest bounty hunter because of the fact that he uses he uses the weapons that he knows what to use, like the A11 and the armor and stuff, and he didn't have that, and he was probably fighting with a weapon that he's not used to as well.
He had a stick. I wouldn't call that a weapon.
Yeah. True. It was a stick, but if you look, it was curved a little bit like the end of the
Yeah, it's a toy gaffy stick, but still a toy.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even very long, so yeah, he had no advantage over his enemy whatsoever.
No, and then we get the Book of Boba logo, and then we get cut to present day, and Fett being woke up by Fennec saying that basically to say that they're here, and he suspends his healing session and climbs out the machine and
did you notice what the computer said?
No, I missed that.
Healing session interrupted. So I'm guessing his sleep cycles in Bacta should be longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then of course we get the scene that we've seen in the trailer of the droid fitting Fett with his armor.
Yeah, and after that, he's in his throne room and getting the visits from the quote unquote royalty of Tatooine, the all the Hive Lords. And
Yes.
what I found completely funny was the first one just going, and
Yeah.
both just nodding. Do you get any what he's saying? Nope.
No, sort of.
We
But the
really need a
protocol droid.
protocol. Oh, at that scene, did you
Hmm.
notice the artwork for that scene later on at the end of the episode?
Possibly. Is that where?
He's sitting on the throne, and there's a
Yeah.
head of a C3PO unit on a plate to his feet, which I found hilarious.
But the other thing as well is, did you notice the the droid that was acting like the Major Domo?
Yeah,
Did you recognize that droid?
yeah, of course, that's the torture one.
Yep, it's the torture droid from Return of the Jedi.
That's one of the first minute figures I had as a child because nobody wanted him because he's just the one pulling that damn lever. And I thought him so cool.
But yeah, so we get an Aqualesh turning up with some credits, and then we get the Trandoshan come up, which was interesting. Where Boba sort of whispered to Fennec that he worked for him
Yeah, but they
previously.
seem to get off rather well.
Yeah, it was interesting that they called Fett the new daimyo as well.
Yeah,
That's the sort of the title that was
Crime Lord.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
then of course they made the comment about even when a Trandoshan pays you a compliment, it sounds like a threat.
yeah, and then we
So,
have the visit from the mayor's assistants or something.
yes, I was expecting him to be fed to something. He seemed really annoying.
Yeah, yeah. No, we are not paying. About tribute. Wait, you
What?
want me to pay you? I'm the
Exactly.
crime lord.
Yes. So I've got a suspicion that is probably what led to the scenes later in the
Later
episode.
events in this episode, yeah.
I got a suspicion that's where they sort of that thing comes from. And then of course, we get the whole thing, and then he brings in two classic Gamorreans.
Yeah,
Because if you look,
half naked,
yes.
not willing to budge.
Hmm. They were basically didn't even surrender when their patron was killed. So it was like Fett basically, instead of killing them, said, "Will you serve me?" And they kneeled down and basically pledged themselves to
Yeah,
Fett.
funny thing is, they said that they had served Jabba and Bib
Hmm.
Fortuna, so
Yeah.
those are experienced fighters.
Hmm. Yeah. But it was interesting that they looked like the classic Gamorrean over what we saw at the beginning of season 2 of the Mando.
Yeah.
Because the ones in season 2 of the Mando seemed a little bit thinner.
Yeah, but these also were a bit more on the thin side, but maybe just because they actually took up humans that had a big belly instead of pushing someone into a big
True.
latex costume.
Yeah, very true. So, but then and
And
then we got
I guess that's part of the reason, maybe because they are actually uh, acting more than the Gamorrean guards in Return of the Jedi. They just stand around and look chubby, and these actually need to fight and move.
yeah, very true. And then of course it cuts to a trip to Mos Espa, which is what we've seen in the trailer, which is basically the capital
Yeah.
of Tatooine, the capital city. And then basically Sean tried Fett for not being carried on a litter, which I thought was quite interesting
Yeah,
because it seems
he's.
when she,
I think she would have been much more happy with the whole situation if he had been more like Jabba the Hutt and
yeah.
kill the Gamorrean guards just to
Hmm.
make an example, as the robot has, the droid actually explained that he should do.
Hmm.
But Baba wants to rule with a different mindset.
Yes.
So
Which is
stands
going
to
to be an
show if that will be more positive for him or more negative.
I'm wondering whether the arc of the show will be him. Yes, he'll be, keeping a hold of, the basically the trying to keep a hold of Jabba's empire, but the empires end up going to be, collapsing around his ears and into civil war. There's a bunch of the comics that have come out recently where we had War of the Bounty Hunters, and now we've got the Red Dawn or Crimson Dawn, which is the Crimson Dawn story as well. So
at the end of season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, it will be an accounting show about how to keep books and keep your
yes,
taxes done.
learn maths the Star Wars way.
Yeah, and if you don't pay your taxes, you'll end up like what's his face again?
Al Capone.
Al Capone, yeah. You can do whatever you want, but don't try to avoid taxes.
But then we enter, then they have the conversation where Fennec talks about the that the litter thing, and and it was a sign of power. It's what people expect in Mos Espa. Not used to seeing the huts parade around the streets, which denotes to me, I think we might see a hut in this season.
Sooner or later, yeah, I guess there will be
I think we
someone
might.
contesting his reign and saying,
Yeah.
I'm the third cousin of Jabba and this is all mine.
Well, it depends how deep they decide to go with episode information and stuff, because we do know that Boba did have that Jabba had a son that was in the Clone Wars movie. That was the whole premise of that movie, wasn't it? That the Separatists were trying to steal.
Yeah, but even if they don't go direct heir to Jabba's throne, I guess the Hutt cartel is big enough for somebody going, yeah, this is my relative, this is now all mine.
Yeah. And then when he enters the cantina, we get to see a bunch of sort of characters that we've seen before, like Max Rebo in the Blith.
Oh, I smiled so much when I saw Max Rebo going on there, jamming away.
I was going to say, I'm guessing he was on an escape skiff before Jabba's sail barge went boom.
Emergency bailout for the band.
Yeah, emergency even, and one of the Bliths from Friggrin Dan's Blith bands from.
Yeah, only one.
Yeah, it was like West. And then then the an astromech, I think, is the drinks astromech that we see as well occasionally.
More than one. With the cone-shaped domes, so not the R2 units, but R4s?
R4 or R5s.
Or R5 even, yeah.
At
least two.
Yeah. And then we have the two Twilix come and take the helmets to be cleaned.
Yeah, and then barely clad
yes.
Twilix, one male, one female. Let us polish your helmets. Haha, wank wank.
That was just wrong on so many levels, that joke. And then we get to meet Jennifer Beals' character, which is Madame Gossa Thwip of, it's FWIP is her surname. Thwip or however the hell you
I'll guess we'll hear it in the show.
I'll guess we'll hear it again. Just mention. And then
she seems to be very indifferent for whoever is collecting taxes on her behalf.
Yeah, there's probably more to her than what we saw.
Oh yeah,
there's definitely probably more to it.
I'm guessing we're going to find out that she has some kind of side business running, which neither Jabba nor Bib Fortuna had ever gotten wind of.
Yeah.
And Boba Fett will find out.
And she welcomes them to what is called Sanctuary. So the cantina or whatever it is called Sanctuary, which is interesting. I'm wondering if they'll play that place like, this is where nothing shall happen, shall we say? If that, it's sort of almost like the Continental in the John Wick films.
It feels a bit like this is a spa and healthcare. This is neutral ground.
Yeah.
Here we all relax and we don't shoot each other at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I quite like what she said. Is, would you like your Gamorreans hosed down?
I was saying my Gomorians are smelly.
Yeah, and then Fett goes, basically, I'm here for business, or shall we go? No, we'll do it here. And they do the whole business thing, and they handed back their helmets. And Fennec goes, your helmet, was it your helmet shinier than mine?
Yeah,
And we look inside, and of course, there's all the coins.
all the credits.
So it's basically, it looks like part of the series or part of the episodes may be when they eventually, if they do eventually get off Tatooine, by the looks of it, they may, because we've seen Slave One in the trailers, whether that be Slave when Boba gets Slave One, which I'm assuming, because there is a reference to him having a ship later in the episode.
Well,
In one of the
it
flashbacks.
depends on how where in the time frame we might add
Yeah.
the scene. If there's in the flashback, then it's he will get back his ship, and if it's in the current state of affairs, it's at this point he has already gotten his ship back.
Yeah. So they depart the cantina or the spa, and then we get the ambush of a bunch of 6 crimson-clad armed figures with the plasma pikes and
very
force
weird
shields.
shields.
Well, the shields remind me of the Mandalorian shields that we saw in season 7 of Clone Wars. Not circ. They're actually the more like the shields that you see the B1, the commando droids use. So there were that rectangle. They weren't circles, because the ones on from Clone Wars were circles for the Mandos. They're more like the rectangle, almost like a Roman long shield. But they're the ones that we see the clone, so the battle droids, command
and they
droids.
had a very prominent middle section.
And the force pikes as well.
Yeah.
Or plasma pikes, the weapons. And then what got me about that fight, because they're getting attacked and stuff, was Fett firing a rocket at that close range. It was like, what are you doing? Surely you can see the fact that
setting an example.
Yeah, boom.
I might be the calm and cautious type at the moment, but I can fuck you up any way I want.
Yeah, it was just more the first rocket he fires is so close, you could see that it was probably going to blow them back. It was just because I guess it's because we've, as an audience, we've got foresight with the fact that we know that the shields can block, blaster fire and stuff like that. But then, of course, they're basically both Fennec and Fett, after Fett's fight, the rocket and falls back, his helmet goes everywhere, and scavengers, Jawas, and everybody starts running to pick up the credits. So that denotes that, I suppose, it not necessarily poverty, but everybody's out for the credit if they can get it.
Well, let's face it. This is a world that's seemingly based on crime and isn't the law-abiding one. So if you get free money, no matter how big your pockets are, free money is free money.
Very true. And then, of course, they're not boarding well, both Fett and Fennec, and then out of nowhere the Gamorreans come in and even up the odds a little bit.
Yeah, and that was a portion that was a bit weird on my part, because on the way to this the cantina, they were in close vicinity, and all of a sudden they were not close to him when they get attacked.
Yeah, it was like where are they, type of thing. But I guess for story purposes more than anything, I guess
it's probably if they would have gone and shown the Gamorreans being held up by a naked female Gamorrean or something.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so the Gamorreans sort of come out of nowhere and
to the rescue
of their new masters. Because I've got a suspicion, even though Fett is the crime lord, that Fennec is probably on the same level when it comes to the Gamorreans and stuff, I would think. from a point of view of the the power structure within that.
As long as they don't start to oppose each other, I think you're very much right.
Yeah.
She is his right hand for all purposes.
Yeah, I tell you what did get me as well, which looked quite interesting, was when we saw Fett. It wasn't when he's got the armor and stuff, and it looks like they haven't changed the armor much apart from dented it. It was more the fact is it looked like he was wearing one of the ARC Trooper camis. The way that they had in like the when we first got to see him, even in in um in Mandalorian, it looked like the that when he puts the armor on stuff that he cuts away or he loses some of the robe, and it looks like he's wearing that almost the ARC Trooper cami, like the skirt that the ARC Troopers seem to be wearing, but it's the same sort of robe styling.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he?
It is, it's very, very true. It was just interesting to see when you looked at him and you go, yeah, he's wearing what looks like a like an ARC cami to his costume, which I thought was quite interesting. And from a point of view of I've looked and I've had a look and stuff, and I watch occasional YouTubers who do build armor and stuff for cosplay. I think the Boba Fett armor here, or what they've done with this, is probably one of the easiest cosplays you could probably do. Looking at it,
Yeah, it's a very detailed how they think he's wearing stuff. And did you notice the sound that his helmet makes when he's putting it on?
Was it almost like a seal, wasn't it? It was almost like
it's almost the same sound that the helmet from Darth Vader made when his top helmet is getting lowered on him. So I'm guessing maybe there's something more to the helmet and the armor for Boba Fett than just protection.
Yeah, it's probably is more than just to protect. I'm wondering if it is to keep him,
in pieces.
yeah, either in pieces or alive per se. Well, not so much alive, but a sort of a life support thing.
Yeah.
A bit like how how that's what Vader's was for, really, wasn't it?
I think in the backstory of Star Wars in general, the Stormtrooper armor also has some sort of built-in life support. So I'm guessing that's more or less a given for most better armor, having some kind of you could step out of a spaceship for a few seconds without immediately get killed.
Yeah, definitely. It's supposed to have something in the way of protection for.
It's not a spacesuit, but it'll hold your air for a few seconds, and you'll not freeze to death immediately.
Yeah, so it's interesting to say the least that that we get the click, you get the click and things and the stuff with the arm and things.
Yeah, the subtle audio hints is what I really love because they pull it together. It's not much. It's like a drop of paint when you paint miniatures, and you and I know how that usually goes. You've got your primary color on the miniature, and then you add details and everything, and it always looks a bit better if you add from the main color on you're using on your miniature in every color you use on that mini to have some kind of pigment that's everywhere and making it look complete.
Yeah, it's paint minis. What's this paint thing that you're on about there?
I wouldn't know. I haven't painted a mini this year.
Yeah, not this year. But yeah, so we get the interesting thing as well was with the ambush as well is Fett takes a good beating, and after the Gamorreans sort of come in, a bunch of the three of the red-cladded assassins run away, and one of them, of
gets
course,
blasted to bits.
I was going to say one of them just gets a rocket in his back and basically gets splattered. All that's left is that stain.
Not even a stain. There's a hole in the wall where he was. It's completely gone.
And then as he goes, he says to Fennec that he wants capture
alive.
Yes.
And
And then
basically, that's what she does. She makes a lot of parkour movements,
yes,
which I thought was a bit too much dragged out. But then again, it's for the young audience, I guess.
hmm
Look how good they can jump over fictional buildings in a fictional universe.
exactly. And then she accosts two of them, beats the two of them, captures one, and basically kicks the other one over the side of the building to his death, which I thought was like, yep.
Yeah, the point was she had the one holding him and
hmm
threatening him with his plasma, whatever it is,
hmm
looking at the other one who just stands there not knowing what to do, and then shoving the other one over the
Yeah,
edge just for like, yeah, it's nothing. See, your life means nothing to me. You better come with me.
exactly. So and then we cut to Fett being carried away to the Bacta tank by the Gamorreans and put in the attack where he has some flashbacks of the rescue of Han Solo.
And the fun thing is he when he first wakes up, he says to Fennec Shen, the dreams are back.
Yeah.
So this seems to be something he's reliving
hmm
often.
Yeah. And then it sort of, as that sort of comes up, it sort of him awakens to the young Tusken that was standing in front of him that tried to beat him in sort of one of the other flashbacks where he stops the kid from doing it, doesn't he? And
Yeah.
then getting his hounds bound with the Rhodian and
And then they
uh,
go start digging in the desert for
well,
weird
no,
little fruits.
yeah, the first thing is they are walking through the desert and they see some smoke.
Oh yeah, there was the moisture farm that's
hmm
getting pillaged by some weirdos.
Yeah, and they sort of scurry up to the um to the edge to look at what's going on, and they see basically as we know, a homesteader being beaten up by several swoop gang members
And
and
I'm
leaving marks on the wall. So that's going
I'm
to come
guessing
back.
those marks will be important later in the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
The series, not this episode, because we
I'll
won't see them
definitely
in this episode anymore.
no. We'll see. I think we'll continue seeing either the swoop gang. We'll definitely see the swoop gang, and
Yeah.
those marks are probably from some of the trailers that we've seen. I think that's what.
If we've learned anything from Star Wars and how they do storytelling, if there's a seemingly unimportant little scene at the side, it'll come back.
Especially now
Yeah.
with who's running Star Wars, I think they sort of know that they'll plant these seeds and those seeds will come back.
There's almost nothing left on the table.
And then the young Tusken gestures for the two captives to dig while he's on guard for what would be classed as what looked like a stone, but I'm assuming some sort of fruit or gourd,
Yeah,
which has
what
got water in
irritated
it.
me a bit was that's the same fruit that the Mandalorian got from the Sand People,
hmm
and when they opened it, it was black and dusty and didn't taste very good at all. And these seem to have only clear water in it, which I
mm
found a bit sad to be such of inconsistent.
mm. But then, as they are digging, Fett talking with the Rhodian who chides him, but basically says that that they can get, if they can get Anchorhead, they can get them off world, which denotes to me as that's where Slave One is,
Potentially.
at Anchorhead.
Yeah.
Fett grumbles, about the Rhodian, and grumbles about feeding him to the watchdog when the Rhodian then turns around and insults Fett, to where Fett goes, you can understand me.
Yeah, and then the Rhodian digs up what can only be described as trouble.
Yes, a six-limbed reptilian creature, which is, I've tried to find out what it is. It's not mentioned anywhere. This has been
Yeah,
specifically created for this episode.
it got 2 legs and four
Yeah.
arms, but the
hmm
lower 2 arms are such a place on the body that he actually can walk like a centaur.
Yeah.
And he's huge.
Yes. And basically grabs the Rhodian, starts.
Also looks very reptilian like, so
Yeah.
he's about
There was
4 or 5 meters tall.
I saw someone post Crate Dragon. No, that's not the Crate
No,
Dragon.
no,
We've
not even
seen a Crate
close.
Dragon, not even close to a Crate Dragon, you know.
Not even a youngling.
Yeah. So they basically they get attacked by this predator. The predator then kills smacks the mastiff away because the mastiff goes after the creature first, but doesn't kill it. Kills the Rhodian. Yay! So, and then basically, because the Fett and the Rhodian are together, the sort of Fett's dangling upside down, and then the young Tuscan child stabs it in the foot with its gaffy stick or stick.
Toy gaffy stick.
And as the creature pulls the stick out, throws it away, and starts sort of stalking the child, Tuscan, Fett jumps on his back and basically does what Leia does to Jabba.
Yeah,
with the chains.
And what's her name again?
Which one?
Oh,
Oh,
Padme.
Padme does it as well. So it's
Yeah.
like mother, like daughter, like bounty hunter.
Yeah, don't do like I say. Do like I say, or something comes to mind.
Yeah, do like I do, not like I say.
Yeah, and also, for those who haven't seen the audience, the chain isn't just a plain chain. The every other link on the chain has spiky bits on it, so he potentially could have used the chain as a makeshift chainsaw. And I'm guessing that's what he did later on, because as he has defeated this weird creature, they go back to camp, and the little one is carrying the head of the creature.
Yep, and the leader then wordlessly hand Fett's basically a gourd of the whatever it is, the weird water fruit, as a show of gratitude, and that's where the episode ends. It was weird because I think it's only like 39 minutes.
It was, yeah.
So it wasn't a long episode.
It's the exact same length as the first episode of Mandalorian.
Right. I was wondering if there were, I mean, to be honest, it's streaming service, and most of the streaming services, I think, have learned, or a lot of streaming services now have learned, is your TV shows don't have to be that 45 minutes.
No,
in length. Audiences, yes, some audiences want it. I know a lot of people going, well, the episode ends too early, and it's like, well, hang on. They're trying to tell a story. This episode is the length of story that they want to tell.
Yeah, and also you always need to keep in mind that the attention span of people is seemingly getting shorter and shorter. So everything that's longer than 30 minutes is actually starting to feel like a movie to some people.
So, but yeah, so and that's where we sort of ended with episode 1. I think, in episode 2 there's going to be the ramifications around the Crimson Assassins. I think, because we've seen it in the trailer, that will be it was the mayor because it was the threat that was made by the Major Domo. What was it? Expect a future visit.
Yeah,
something to that sort of degree of.
You could interpret those words as in many ways.
Yeah. It's
Do you think that we will get flashbacks after episode 2, or will the first 2 episodes just be the complete story on how he got there?
No, I think we're going to get more flashbacks, because we've seen in the trailers some flashback scenes, and I think they'll be coming in future episodes, like with Swoop Bike Gang attacking those 2 characters that were Luke's friends from the deleted scenes of Empire. Sorry, deleted scenes from the New Hope. When he goes to Anchorhead.
And Toshi Station getting some energy converters.
Yeah, so there's 2 characters in there that are actually in the trailer, because if you look in one of the trailers, he's wearing like the white costume that he's wearing, yeah, and he's come either in a Bacta tank or getting healed at what looks like a homestead when the Swoop Gang comes and he shoots a bunch of them, doesn't he? So I think we'll get a bunch of flashbacks throughout the episode to throughout the series to fill in those gaps.
Yeah,
I think there's some gaps that need to be, that are going to be plugged, and hopefully this will lead into a second season anyway. And I think it might. I don't think, unlike say Kenobi, which we know is going to be a limited series because of where it's set, I think in the time frame. Kenobi set 10 years before, or 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, I think they said.
I think it's more or less slap bang in the middle between
slap bang in the
Star
middle,
Wars:
yeah.
A New Hope and Revenge of the
Yeah.
Sith.
And we've seen Kenobi 5 years before A New Hope as well, because we saw that episode Twin Sons in Rebels, which was a really good episode where we know that's where Maul dies. So, I don't think they'll do any. We know they're not going to do any more Kenobi. I think it's just they had an idea for a film, I think, for Kenobi, and decided not to do it as a film, but to do it as a Disney Plus show. The same with Boba. There was, and you probably heard the rumors as well, and this is going back when they first took over. Disney first took over Star Wars or got the licenses, that there was talk of doing a Boba Fett movie, and this was before Solo was announced.
Yeah,
so
I'm guessing the fact that Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett are series with multiple episodes with a longer playtime than a movie is more or less done because the creative said, but we got so much to tell, we would need at least 2 films, or we do a series which is much cheaper to produce and people have something to watch each week.
Yeah,
which is a plus in my book.
The other interesting thing that I know has been announced from Lucas, just generally, is their stagecraft, or the volume as it's called. I think it's called stagecraft. Is the technology now? It's got a proper name. Is they've got a bunch of these. There's I think 2 of them in the main where the film Book of Boba and stuff. I think there's 2 stagecraft sets done now, so there's 2 volumes. There's one coming to London, and I think there's one in Australia as well.
Yeah, I think that thing is one of the most important steps in production for of quality of production for a TV series, because that thing just, if you ever see the documentation on how that thing works, it just blows your mind.
It is. It's just a full 360 collection of projectors running an Unreal Engine, a souped up, I would say, souped up version of the Unreal Engine, though. For building those virtual sets, but doing it in real time as well, I think is the main thing as well, where you can adjust on the fly, can't you? And it's
and also it always takes into account the camera angle, the lighting. You don't need so much extra artificial light because the projectors are actually emitting light, and that's just. I think when the first season of The Mandalorian was through and people saw how well received that was and how good the actual tech behind it is, that just led to make your Obi-Wan TV series, make Book of Boba, and if while you're at it, throw another one in it.
Yeah, let's throw in Ahsoka show, let's throw in all of those, because that's starting to gear up, I think, is from what they've been saying, because I think that's a 2023 release, is the Ahsoka show, and whatever else they've got planned, where we know the Acolyte and the Ahsoka show. And maybe Rangers, because by the sounds of it, Rangers is actually not being canned, but just put on hold. I wonder if that means we may get a lesser spotted Gina Carano back.
Well, we'll see. So, on a scale from Jar Jar Binks to Han Solo frozen in carbonite, how would you rate this episode?
I thought it was a good start. I really did. I mean, there's ways of improvement. It's a bit like the Mando. The Mando was a good start. There was things that you could improve on the Mandalorian episode 1. But it was something that we'd never sort of seen, hadn't we?
We need to keep in mind that the Mandalorian was a complete new story.
Yeah,
we didn't know anything.
True.
Looking back at the episode with trying to not know what we already know, it's a quite good one.
It is, yeah. It filled in the blanks, which I thought was interesting. And actually, I'm looking here, and I've just brought up Wikipedia for this, is the flashbacks are 4 years after what's called ABY, which is after the Battle of Yavin. Yeah. The episode is 9 years after the Battle of Yavin.
That's a long time.
What's interesting, real, is that episode was written by Jon Favreau. So John wrote that one as well, because he wrote the first episode of Mando season 1.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be interesting on where these things end up. Because if they are set that late in the timeline, they could actually start scratching Resistance, New Republic, New Order.
Well, the sequel trilogy, as it's been called, yes, the
three we are not actually talking about.
yeah, the three that fans don't like, and neither here nor there. Each of us have our own opinions about them. They're 35 years after Return of the Jedi.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Come to think of it, just by how much Leia and Han are showing their age, I guess that's more reasonable.
Yeah. So if you look, I'm just trying to bring it up on Wikipedia because they have a timeline. So if I go to see, bring it up, it's probably going to be Ray, isn't it? Or Ray Y. Sky, because that'll tell you roughly when she was. She was born 15 years after the Battle of Yavin, and then died and resurrected on basically Exegol, the Sith planet, was 35 years after the Battle of Yavin. So basically, not the Last Jedi, but the whole episodes with her being stuck on Jakku and stuff's probably about 30 years, maybe a bit more, before she comes off there. So we know that that at some point, yes, they probably will bump into the sequel trilogy at some point, maybe.
You think there will be some kind of weird famous character jumping into Book of Boba at the end of the season, or maybe season 2?
I think
like
we'll see
Luke Skywalker did for The Mandalorian.
Well, the rumblings are we going to get to see Solo? Are we going to get to see Mando? Are we going to get to see a lesser spotted Mace Windu? Because some of the fans think Mace Windu survived.
Yeah. Mace Windu is something I wouldn't put past them either. I don't think we will get Han Solo.
No.
Not really. What
I
was thinking, what could be part of this universe would be a Lando Calrissian.
Well, yes, we may get a Lando. We may get because that might lend into the Lando TV series that we know is coming. There is a Lando TV series coming.
How to burgle your way around?
But also, there is it was a Christmas card went out almost for for production and stuff, and there was a bunch of Lego Star Wars stuff on it, like the minifigs.
Yeah.
And it was all of the bounty hunters, including a Boba Fett looking like he does in the Book of Boba. So one of the rumblings has been we may get to see Dengar, IG-88, Forlorn, Zuckuss, Bosk. We may actually get to see Bosk because we've seen the Trandoshans.
I want to see a bounty hunter convention with this is the new hunting gear.
Well, I'm wondering if we will get to see, they may resurrect a bunch of those characters to come around.
Do you remember that toy they made that never was in the movie for the bounty hunters with the grappling hook at the end and the suction cup feet? It was depicted with a Trandoshan in the cockpit and had so the figure would stand in the miniature. and had a dome glass cockpit you could shut down.
Oh God! Well, there
And
was a
at
bunch
the
of them
end,
like
you
that,
had
wasn't there?
a vice grip you could open up and put somebody in as a
Yes,
bounty.
I think I do. Yeah, so it'll be a vintage Star Wars vehicle. So I'm just googling vehicle.
And if that thing makes it into this series, I would be so happy.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of the vintage vehicles. You know, there's I've got a picture of some of them here that weren't seen on screen. So there's things like which has turned up, which was that Imperial transport. We saw that in Mando, didn't we? We saw that the
Yeah.
Imperial transport turned up. There was it's a thing with it's called the Cap 2 is what you're looking for. CAP-2 toy. 5 mini rigs create your own Star Wars adventure from Return of the Jedi. Mini rigs sold separately. It's a collection of different toys.
Yeah, that's what I had that one back in the day. And the suction cups really worked well. Let me
Well,
tell you.
what's interesting as well, the one you need to have a look for and tell me if this doesn't look familiar. It's called the Endor Forest Ranger.
Oh,
Okay.
this was the disc-shaped one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the Punisher tank that's just turned up for Legion. It
Yeah,
looks like the droid tank.
that was my thought when the tank was shown in the movie
Mm,
for the first time.
yes, it's like what the hell. But yeah, so they were called mini rigs. If anybody's interested, actually there's an article on StarWars.com about them called Off-Screen but Not Forgotten Mini Rigs and Body Rigs and Other Kenner Vehicles, and it's just basically a list of all of the Kenner vehicles, including a mini skiff they did at one point,
Yeah,
which
and
was like
there's also a tank, a little rebel tank, and
yes,
the snowmobile for the Empire with the springy drum-shaped
yes.
wheels.
hmm I had the MLC3 or the Mobile Laser Cannon 3, which is that mini rebel tank with the dome and the 2 guns.
Yeah, I had that as well. Also, I had the very much looking like the head from an AT-ST flyer
Yes, with the
with
trooper in it.
yeah with the wings that's retractable, and
Yes.
the advertisement had actually shown that thing to fit inside an AT-80, so you could
Yeah.
have air support from within your AT-80.
Just insane. You look at some of this, and we know that they've there's 2 vehicles that I know of that have sort of been put in semi canon, which is the Kenner, which is the troop transport that we saw in Mando.
Mm-hmm.
But that turned up first in Rebels,
Yeah,
It was first appeared in Rebels, even though it first actually appeared as a toy. But then there's also the Saber tank, because the Saber tank didn't turn up. And actually, the Saber tank isn't technically canon. I know it's part of the toy. It's part of the miniatures range. So I'm just wondering whether anything that appears up in Star Wars Legion or in from X-Wing, the miniatures games and stuff like that, whether it's classed as canon. But the Saber tank originally turned up in the video games.
yeah.
And now you can get it as a 28mm, heavy piece of plastic, along with the
Yeah.
lats.
Just looking at these toys that I owned at one point in time makes me want to go to eBay and just buy myself silly.
Makes you want to go to eBay and kill your bank balance by buying them. Yeah.
I really don't dare to go to eBay and look up what
No,
this Cap 2 might actually cost currently.
no. Step away from eBay.
Just step away
Step
from the
away.
computer.
It's a bit like me looking on Hasbro Pulse at the Black Series stuff that's there to pre-order now. For
Oh,
the
it's
Black Series Star Wars, there's a bunch of new figures gone up for Pulse, and it's a collection of the ARC Troopers from basically Battlefront 2 in different color schemes, but they're the vintage size, so they're the 3-inch ones, not the 6-inch Black Series, which is the ones I collect.
given that we're talking about Star Wars collectibles, this one isn't that bad.
Mm.
There's actually one in Germany being sold off for €20.
That's not bad.
Now, the glass dome is heavily scratched, but it seems to be in complete order.
A little bit of resin will fix the scratching.
Are you trying to make me sense?
Would I do that to you to make you spend money?
I'm not saying I'm going to buy this, but I'm definitely putting this on my watch list.
But yeah, I mean the toy the collectible stuff as well is. I mean, I know for a fact there's a new. There's a Bo-Katan helmet coming now? Is due.
Yeah,
You know
I
how
saw that.
Yeah, they've done the Bo-Katan helmet, which is really nice. And I've seen cosplayers, as I got one of the YouTubers who does cosplay, take the Fett helmet that came from Hasbro
Mm-hmm.
and repurpose it and repaint it and use it in a cosplay.
Well, why not?
Yeah, you sort of
Guess it's easier and more convenient than building your own from scratch.
or 3D printing, 3D printing them and stuff, which is what I've
3D
seen a lot of.
printing is cheating.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people are doing now. They're 3D printing, their armor pieces, and then painting them themselves and stuff like that. Same with the weapons. I saw a 3D printed version of the amber rifle that someone's done, and you just put some dowel through, for the barrels and stuff. And there's a YouTuber called SKS Props, and he does foam work, so he uses heavy foam and stuff, yeah. And he put a video up just before Book of Boba, and he's basically made out of foam, a E3 blaster.
Nice.
Just all out of foam, and the paint job on it, when you paint it, because he took a wire brush to the foam and stuff, so he's painted the stock and it looks like wood and the paint job and stuff. So you
just don't hit anybody with it. It might break.
Well, it's just hard EVA foam. So it's like HD foam, so it's like off the matting and stuff, and a bit like what we use for for building
Yeah, XPS foam.
XPS foam. It's a bit like that and stuff. So it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not
Brittle.
brittle, yeah, and it's not it's con safe as well. So because we know what with conventions and stuff.
You mean those things where people gather when there's no pandemic
those
around?
Things. Yeah, those things as well. But I mean, on the whole, getting back to the episode, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the 7 episodes, and we'll see what comes from after episode 7. I know for a fact we might get a gallery series. I think we will.
Yeah, I think
on how they made it.
It's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect, but
No.
I think anybody who's expecting perfect for the first episode will be bored to death by the following episodes.
Yeah.
So there's room for improvement. There's much more room for storytelling, which I pretty much like. And at the same time, we are not really left hanging in any way, shape, or form because we know the story will continue. They wouldn't have made a series where the main character dies in the first episode, and the his backstory on how he got where he's now is. I think that's going to be an interesting tale to be told.
I think so as well, and that we know it, and it has been said in interviews and stuff that a lot of what we see in the trailers is from like the first, no more than say the first 15 minutes of episodes, and maybe even from the first 2 or 3 episodes. I think after episode 3, it'll be the same as what they did with the Mandalorian stuff. Is all the stuff in the trailers was up to a certain point, and then beyond that, we didn't get to see, anything in the trailers because they didn't.
Yeah.
Market it. It's the same. It's the same as what they've done with most of all of the Marvel shows, like Hawkeye, which was just finished. It's finished the week before Book of Boba. Is we got to see a lot of what we saw was from the first 2 or 3 episodes. We did in the trailer get to see a couple of scenes from the very last episode, but there was no big spoilers given away, and I think that's what they're doing with most of their trailers in this. I think that it's not like, and I think we covered this in the last one, where Warner Brothers is probably the most notorious for this with the Justice League, where in the trailer for not Justice League, but for Batman v Superman, in the last trailer you got to see the big villain Doomsday. he has the big reveal of our big villain.
Yeah,
And it's like, right, so you've just ruined it for a bunch of people that wanted to see the film. In a
people
way,
can be weird.
yeah. So I think Disney are very clever with their marketing on what they release and how they do it.
Yeah, they sure are very careful with the IP they are using. I think if they keep this up, we have a lot to look forward to.
Definitely a lot to look forward to coming this year in Star Wars, especially. I think this year and next year are going to be big years. I think this year we know there's at least there's 4 series coming this year in 2022. Next year is the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi, so that's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, we've got, I'd say, the next 24 months can be potentially very exciting for Star Wars fans, old and new.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's everything we need to talk about, doesn't it?
I think this is a good jumping off point. First episode, well done. Please keep more. And with that said, I thank you out there for listening to us ramble along. I thank Ralph for being here and rambling along. And with that, we will sign off, and we will see you again next week when the second episode of the Book of Boba Fett has been on air, as they say. Bye.